Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. This meeting is being broadcast live on the City of Keene YouTube channel and Spectrum Channel 1302. The video is also streamed on the city's website and is posted by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. If you would like to receive an electronic City Council packet to reference while viewing future broadcasts, please contact the City Clerk's office during business hours or go to the city's website and subscribe to the city's meeting email list. The agenda is also accessible from any mobile device. And I'd like to ask our clerk to call the roll.
Kate M. Bosley.
Here.
Laura E. Tobin.
Here.
Michael J. Remy. Randy L. Filio.
Here.
Robert C. Williams.
Here.
Edward J. Haas.
Here.
Philip M. Jones.
Present.
Andrew M. Madison. Chris E. Roberts.
Here.
Jacob R. Favalise.
Here.
Brian J. Lake.
Here.
Catherine I. Workman. Bettina A. Chadbourne.
Here.
Thomas F. Powers.
Here.
Mitchell H. Greenwald.
And I'd like to ask Councilor Lake, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A few announcements before some recognitions. We received a communication this week from Jennifer Carroll, the Executive Director of the Historical Society of Cheshire County, thanking us for the collaboration on the City of Keene's 150th anniversary display and exhibit at the Historical Society. That was up until this last Saturday, so a lot of people in Keene had an opportunity to view it. It actually is going on tour, in fact, to Covenant Living and then returning it to the City Clerk's office. And thank you to the City Clerk's office for the preparation of those murals. The broadcast of that, it will find a home on the city's website so that the mayor's panel that was hosted, and some of the councilors, you were there for that, that will be viewable by the public for your viewing pleasure. So we will publicize that in the next week. I wanted to recognize a couple of counselors. Laura Tobin, first off, who received the Spirit of Monadnock Award for her sustained commitment and positive impact on the community at the last Monadnock United Way event, where they celebrated having raised over $1.3 million in this last year. And Laura, thank you for your encouraging words and your effort to help raise that amount of money. Thank you. And the other thing that we're, Councilor Remy is not here tonight because of being honored by the Monadnock United Way for having served the last 6 years on their board of directors, which he is seating off of in the next month. And then I wanted to, two other things. We have several vacancies on city boards and commissions. The city clerk's office has assembled all of those together. We're going to publish those too on the city website. So if the public has an interest in helping the city fill some of those vacancies, that will be accessible. And please feel free, councilors, to promote that on your social media pages, but that'll be posted in the next week as well. And then finally, want to let you know that the Mayor's Youth Council at Keene High School started up again for this semester, today. And it's a great focus group of about 22 high schoolers from 10th to 12th grade. And I invite, if you have a topic that you would like to explore with 20 or so high schoolers who are long-term members of our community, it's a great opportunity to tee up a topic and prepare yourself for a conversation, a focus group with them. And the next opportunity, the managers arranged for our community development staff that are working on the master plan to discuss the master plan with those high school students as a focus group. So that's just an example of how they might be used. So that report. And I overlooked, as I launched into that, a call for a motion on our minutes of the February 6th meeting. Councilor Greenwald?
Move to adopt the minutes of the February 6th, 2025 meeting as presented.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Greenwald and seconded by Councilor Bosley. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none? All those in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Have we taken the roll?
Yep.
Yes.
We did that. Good.
We're ready to adjourn.
Councilor Jones.
If I can, may I just add something to your announcements? I believe it's next Thursday is the hazard mitigation presentation at Heberton Hall at 5:30. You and I were able to see it already because it was at the Master Plan Committee. It's a great presentation, and I would ask that as many people as can go see this. It's very good. He did a great job.
Yeah, I'm glad you've mentioned that. Again, thank you very much, Councilor Jones. You've shortened the manager's comments. Okay. So we're moving to some recognitions, community recognitions tonight, and I'd like to begin that by asking Anna Dumont to join me for a moment. And Anna, we want to recognize people, citizens, residents of Keene who have been acknowledged beyond our community for having achieved something very significant, and you did this last couple of weeks since our last council meeting. So a proclamation on your behalf, whereas Anna Dumont began her skiing career at Granite Gorge at the age of 2 years old, and with the support of her parents, Robert and Colleen, who are here tonight, quickly progressed to competitive racing, including competing against her brother, Nicholas. And whereas in 2024, during Anna's junior year, she experienced a skiing accident which caused her to be sidelined with a leg injury, resulting in a year of dedicated physical rehabilitation to end that season. And whereas after a full recovery, Anna has returned to Keene High School girls alpine ski team, coached by her father, Bob, for her senior year. And whereas at this year's New Hampshire Division I Championships, facing over 90 skiers statewide, Anna captured the New Hampshire Division I State Championship in the slalom and placed in the top 10 at the Meet of Champions in the slalom and Grand Slalom races. And whereas Anna's training at our local Granite Gorge ski hill and her teaching of students at Crotched Mountain Ski Hill illustrates the community connections to her achievements and brings pride to her family, school, and the entire Keene community. Now, therefore, as mayor, do I hereby congratulate Anna Dumont for her inspiring story and exceptional achievements and wish her continued success in the future. Congratulations, Anna.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And you have the opportunity of saying any few words that you would.
I'm really thankful for my comeback. Shout out my dad, Bob Dumont, best ski coach I've ever had. And shout out Granite Gorge. That is a good mountain. You should go check it out.
Good thought. And also with her tonight to support her are Aunt Holly and Uncle Randy. Next, I want to recognize Gaetana Martin. And Gaetana, please come forward. Gaetana recently returned from her symphonic orchestral performance in the Honors Performance Series at Carnegie Hall in New York City. And while her achievements as a nationally recognized young musician merit recognition by the council, it is the story of how she arrived there that is something in which our entire community can take pride. I'm going to shortcut this because it's a good and long story. But there are a lot of people to credit for your accomplishments. It begins in kindergarten and in first grade when principal at Simon School, Richard Cate, and the music teacher there, Amanda Paul, recognized your talent as a first grader and promoted you to third grade, only for music, but allowed her to begin practicing with the third grade students. At that time, she had already been playing for a year and showed that strong drive. Her first music teacher, though, was a Montessori teacher, Rebecca Baldini, and Rebecca taught you the Suzuki method of listening by ear and learning music notes later. And she also gave you the 100-day challenge, which was, if you practice for 100 days consecutively, I'll give you a trophy. And apparently a trophy was enough.
I was 6 years old, of course it was.
And so you earned the trophy. And since that moment, Gaetana has not put down the violin for a day yet in those intervening 10 years, which is remarkable given vacations, camps, summer camps, and all other things that are possible diversions. And her parents recognized you needed a broader set of musicians to give you a hand. Among those in the community that did, Messiah
Mesa Hanbali.
Mesa Hambali. Thank you. I knew I'd struggle through that one. It taught you how to accept critical feedback, and which was valuable during our COVID years when performances were a little more difficult. You've been tutored by Jesse McDonald from Apple Hill String Quartet Players, who's been a remarkable teacher and mentor to you. There are a number of other musicians, including the late Don Baldini, who was your first conductor and a mentor, and who invited you into the Keene State College Orchestra at a young age, and into the Keene Chamber Orchestra. Yeah, Mom and Dad, apparently you're not musicians, so anything is possible, so long as you've got the support of your parents, who have apparently purchased a number of violins over the years. It was Amanda Paul, one of your first teachers, who nominated you for the Honors Performance Series, and you apparently this competition required you to prepare a recording of a required piece and an original piece.
Not an original, a chosen solo excerpt.
Chosen, all right. And that the symphonic orchestra, which you qualified for without waitlisted, just a straight-up selection, it was comprised of 70 students, 20 of which were violinists, and it included strings, brass, winds, and percussion. And the orchestra was comprised of students from 49 states and 4 countries, so it was an international performance. And then you wrote me, and I've got to read this because it's Gaetana's post New York City experience, which she described as absolutely wonderful. The conductor was a professor and conductor at the Eastman School of Music who was a fountain of musical knowledge. The way that he conducted and spoke about music changed the attitudes about the music people played, how they expressed emotion, and how they melded into one working body harmonizing in unison. Gaetana described the Carnegie Hall stage as just an amazing, more amazing than in the pictures, but the pictures can't capture the energy. Immediately, when we walked on stage for the sound check in the afternoon, a couple hours before our performance, it already felt like the air was buzzing. But that night, when we walked onto the stage to perform, it was truly electric. The audience abruptly started roaring with applause. And as we went to our seats, and while we were performing, it felt as though time stopped, so we could savor the moments just a little longer. Once the performance had finished and we performed our encore piece, the audience was hollering, applauding, and gave us a standing ovation while we stood there and smiled. The opportunity was such an honor, and I feel incredibly lucky to have been a part of history, even if just for a moment of that hallowed stage. I read Gaetana's words because I think truly to express your emotion, it was appropriate for her to bring the instrument and show us some of her musical talent. The show is yours.
That's the wrong piece. Okay, sorry. Two pieces I'm working on at the same time right now are starting with the same chord, which is a bit confusing at times.
congratulations, and beautiful, there was nothing simple about that. We summarized what I just tried to say into a proclamation on your behalf, but let me say that we are very proud to recognize and commend you for your outstanding achievements and your dedication to musical excellence, and I, on behalf of the council, want to extend our heartfelt congratulations and best wishes for your continued success.
Thank you.
I can add two things. Gaetana was the only New Hampshire student selected to be on the Carnegie stage that evening, and she's also a member of the Mayor's Youth Council at Keene High School, so thank you for your participation. Okay. All right, moving along, we have communications to the council. Oh, we have our nominations and the confirmations. Sorry.
This evening, we are confirming the mayor's nominations to Human Rights and Zoning Board of Adjustment. These members were previously alternates and are moving to regular positions. And so to the Human Rights Committee, we have Deborah Bowie, again, moving from an alternate to a regular with December 31, 2027. And David Morrill, also a current alternate, moving to a regular member, December 31, 2027. Mohammed Saleh, again, regular to an alternate member, actually reversing, regular to an alternate. Mohammed has met his two-term consecutive terms, is not eligible for another term, December 31, 2027. And to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and Adam Burke, moving from an alternate to a regular, again, the December 31, 2027 date.
So those, I'd like to ask Counselor Greenwald for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to confirm the nominations.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Greenwald and seconded by Counselor Bosley. Any comments on the nominations? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Bosley,
Yes.
Counselor Tobin,
Yes.
and Counselor Filio.
Yes.
Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Counselor Haas.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
And Counselor Roberts.
Yes.
Counselor Favelis.
Yes.
Counselor Lake.
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne.
Yes.
Counselor Powers.
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Now moving to communications.
We only have one communication this evening, and it's from Counselor Remy, and he's looking for the council to consider adopting a consent agenda as part of your process.
And we will refer that to Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee at their next scheduled meeting.
Going on to reports, we have a few this evening, so starting off with the planning licenses and development. The committee is recommending that the mayor write a letter of support on House Bill 250, which would be enabling legislation that would allow local governing bodies to regulate the muzzling of dogs.
I'd like to recognize Counselor Bosley for a motion.
Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Bosley and seconded by Counselor Jones. Counselor Bosley for the committee.
Thank you, Your Honor. So last year, when we were discussing an amendment to our own ordinance, it was discovered that the state restricted our ability to regulate the use of muzzling to specifically rabies outbreaks. The heart of this request tonight is to advocate that the state give municipalities the authority to create their own regulations and ordinances on this topic, and the committee was in full support of the letter.
Thank you. Counselor Williams.
Thank you. People will recall this topic coming around a few times. At this point, we tried to get something going in city council, but we were stopped by state law. But let's go try to change the state law, And we've had, cooperation from a number of our state representatives. This was introduced by State Representative Jody Newell, but State Representative Phil Jones is also co-sponsor of this. You know, the idea is to make it so what happened to Suzette, the little dog that was attacked by a dog that already had a record as a vicious dog, but was not muzzled. You know, we want to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen again, but we're limited in our tools to do so. So this is just asking for the mayor to write to the state legislature, both Senate and House, to make this small amendment. It's to existing laws. This is currently House Bill 250, and it's coming before the Environmental and Agriculture Committee on March 5th at 9:30, in case anybody wants to be there. And, well, that's the summary. I hope you'll vote yes, and that we can have our mayor write a letter on this council's behalf supporting this bill.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Jones?
Thank you.
Very good. And this is, as I think we've recognized in discussion, enabling legislation that allows municipalities and towns to consider these kinds of changes to their ordinances, and that's a future issue. The enabling legislation is the request, and as our city attorney has pointed out to us in the past, those things are hard to come by. So it's good. It's a good start. Ready for a vote? All those in favor? Council is unanimous in that.
Second communication, again, from the Planning Licenses and Development Committee. This one relative to a potential amendments to the Land Development Code for animated signs in the industrial zone. On a vote of 5-0, the Planning Licenses and Development Committee recommends the city manager be directed to prepare an application for submittal to the city council requesting amendments to the Land Development Code relating to animated signs in the industrial zones.
Recognize Councilor Bosley for the committee, and a motion.
I move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Bosley and seconded by Councilor Jones. Councilor Bosley.
So we heard an informational presentation on feather signs, which are the types of signs that are in question tonight. After a lengthy conversation with both code and community development, we got lucky that we actually had our code enforcement officer present that evening on another item. So we got to talk a lot about how sign codes are enforced. And we gave the Community Development Department some really good direction on how we'd like to see this move forward. We offered our thoughts and recommendations, and we asked for an update to the sign code, and we're hoping that you guys will support those changes as well.
And Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to mention that at the hearing in the committee, there were some people that asked that we also do this in the commercial zones. And I think we're doing it the right way by doing the industrial zones first, take baby steps to make sure it works before we move on to other zones.
Thank you, Councilor. Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. Seeing no further comments. All those in favor? We have a unanimous vote of the council. Thank you very much.
Planning License in the Development Committee report relative to an amendment to the Rules of Order dealing with voting and conflict of interest, and it's section 15. On a vote of 4-1, the Planning Licenses and Development Committee recommends the adoption of the Rules of Order Amendment, section 15, voting and conflicts of interest. Councilor Williams voted in opposition.
And Councilor Bosley for a motion.
Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
And moved by Councilor Bosley, seconded again by Councilor Jones. Councilor Bosley for the committee.
Thank you. So this is a rule that we have been discussing, and we've seen some different variations of, but I think we finally have gotten to something the committee can stand behind. The changes here clearly define what a special interest is. There's no more ambiguity around it, and it brings us in line with the language and definition that the state legislature has adopted for itself. It creates transparency for the public with a new form to be completed and filed yearly with the clerk's office. The form I want to spend a little bit of time on tonight, there was a lot of conversation with respect to this form, and I want to be clear that in the background notes at PLD, that the intention for this was for the committee to give direction for the clerk's office to draft a form that creates anonymity for the topic of household, right? So household is now newly defined in this specific rule, and this form would be styled such that household interest would be under an umbrella of the greater special interest of the council member and would be reported in one list with the councilor's personal special interests. So what that means to me is that there has been some conversation about creating some sort of protection around individuals in the household, but those household special interests are still really important for the public's understanding that we're providing full transparency. So instead of calling out the individual person in the household that has the interest, that interest relates back to the counselor, and the council would report them as their own. Since we have completed our form for 2025, I would also say that the new form would be introduced later in this council year, and it would be made available by the clerk's office for anyone who would like to voluntarily update it, but that it would be, the new form would be being put into place for January of 2026 per our rule.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Williams.
Hi, I was the one who voted against this. I do think it has improved quite a lot since the last time we've seen it, but it's still, I'm not comfortable with the household provision. You know, as this rule has gotten better, I think the information climate in America has gotten worse, and weaponization of information is, you know, a very real thing, and it's something that can be used against us. And it's one thing when our information is used against us, but I have real concerns when information about my spouse's employer can be weaponized, which is something that happens, you know. I know I'm not the only person who's, you know, had to deal with trolls, shall we say, on social media. Some of them seem, you know, kind of dangerous. I've had threats. Do I really want my spouse's information out there available for these people to make use of in a way that, you know, could endanger my family? I don't like that at all. So I considered, you know, whether we should try to amend this here, but I think what should happen is I would recommend people just vote against this, and then if the mayor were to send it back to PLD again, there's still a lot of good stuff in here, and I would say let's figure out how to keep the good stuff while taking out the household provision. Thank you.
I'd like to address a couple of questions and comments there. I think that we've talked about this pretty extensively over the last 13 months. And there's some observations that, and I think a lot of counselors really have contributed to this. There was a concern that the definition of a family member was too restrictive, was not inclusive of the kinds of household relationships that counselors might have. And so that definition has been adjusted to be not just a spousal relationship, but other adults in the household who are contributing to the economic interests of the household. And as Councilor Bosley pointed out, this is not specific to any member in the household. It's the influence that that interest might have on the counselor, not to expose any particular person, but that my wife is working at Monadnock Regional School District is an influence on me, not to disclose where she works, but that in addition to my position in the past at Keene State College, that I would if there was an issue for Monadnock Regional High School before this council, that I would have disclosed that to the public, that I have a potential special interest in that, and it was disclosed. But it is my special interest and not the interest of any member of my household that is being disclosed. And the same thing for any kind of committee that a person is sitting on, other than the counselor yourself. If there is a court-appointed special advocate in your household, I would report that I have that special interest because it is somebody in my household who has that interest. And it is my special interest that is being reported. It's an influence on me, potentially, and that's the transparency that we're trying to achieve. I think, too, that it is by adopting the definitions that the state legislature has adopted through its ethics commission, signed by the governor and implemented this year, it is setting a standard for our counselors that is no greater than the standard that have been set for other local representatives of our community who are also elected officials. So there's parity. We are not trying to struggle with a definition that is different from the state, that perhaps is putting a greater burden on any elected member of this body that is any greater than other locally elected officials from our area. There was a concern raised about tenants in your household, and that we have excluded tenancy. So that is not a special interest on you, that member of your household is not considered a part of your special interests. And we've addressed the issue that was coming before the council, that we were not reporting the special interests of spouses. And that was clearly demonstrated instances of some conflicts that were going unreported. And so now we've plugged that hole, which is the same thing that the state legislature did in its definitions. So these are the kind of things that we've been able to address. And I hope that we can take this step of transparency. And as far as this year goes, Councilor Bosley and the clerk's office, we've had this conversation. There is no need for a counselor, unless the counselor believes that you need to, there are additional items for you to disclose to complete a new form. The new form will be available. It would be announced by the city clerk that it is available to counselors. And if, in reading those new definitions, counselors observe that there are things that now are reportable, and you want to do that and get in front of this, then by all means you'll file an amendment. But there is no requirement to use the new form in this year if you've already submitted one, which the clerk's office has said every member of the council has submitted a conflict of interest statement for this year. So. Yes, I think we have landed in a good place. I hope that the council will accept this. It will take 10 votes of the council, where there are only 13 here, or 12 here tonight. So we are raising the bar for this vote. But I think this has taken a lot of work and effort of the council, and I hope that that can be recognized tonight with an affirmative vote. Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say thank you to you and to staff we've come a long way with this. It's probably been almost a year that we did this, and I truly want to thank staff for just the way we describe financial interests and substantial interests. They're well defined in there, and excluding leasehold interest is something that I was asking for all along, and it's in there now. I just wanted to say thank you to staff, and I look forward to passing this.
Thank you. Councilor Favelis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to reiterate the comments about the compromise that I think we've reached here. I was opposed to this rule when we first saw it a few months ago. largely because of concerns that we could get into a situation where we were, involving in council discussions in full view of the public, counselors' family members and other household members in discussions about special interests and who should or shouldn't be voting on what. And I really appreciate the work that PLD did in consultation with city staff and the city clerk's office to make sure this form is going to have that level of anonymity. I do want to say that I understand completely Councilor Williams' point about the political climate that we're in, and I think that, some of the conversation around this conflict of interest disclosure has been painted as a really black and white decision between, either you're for transparency or you're against transparency, and I don't think that that's a fair characterization. I will be voting for this rule tonight because of the compromises that we've reached through this process, which is how we should be working as a local government, and I actually wish we saw a lot more of that at all levels of government, but we can start by trying to set the example here. But I know that councilors who are voting against this rule tonight are not doing so because they don't think the community deserves transparency. They're doing so because they have genuine concerns about what this means in our current political climate, and I want to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, would the clerk call the roll?
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Tobin?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
No.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Favelis?
Yes.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Motion carries 11-1. Okay, thank you very much.
Our next item on the committee reports is coming from Finance, Organization, and Personnel. It's relative to the Energy and Climate Committee's recommendations for Phase 2 of the Keene Community Power and a recommended amendment to the Community Power Plan. There are 3 motions before you. I believe the mayor's intent is to act on them individually. So starting with recommendation number 1. On a vote of 5-0, the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee recommends that the next Community Power Program electricity options have 3 levels. The levels would include Keene Basic at 25% total renewable energy, Keene 50 with a default of 50% total renewable energy, and Keene 100, which is 100% total renewable energy.
I'd like to recognize Councilor Powers for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to carry out the intent of the first recommendation in the committee report.
Second.
That's moved by Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Lake. Councilor Powers for the committee.
Thank you, Your Honor. A lot of work been done to bring us to this point tonight, and there's more work to be done after we pass it to get the second phase of the program put together. But a majority of the work has been done by city staff and the Energy and Climate Committee. All volunteers are working hard to work towards some improvements in this particular area and ultimately to improve our environment, because we're talking about energy, and when you talk about energy, you're talking about pollution. So if you really want to get into all the points and percentages, it's pretty impressive what's been analyzed and what we see here, but it's all here in this report that they put together and sent forward to the FOP. We had a number of discussions, and essentially what the FOP settled with was we'd break it down into 3 particular sections, but now those categories are changing from where they were. There were 4 in the past, but we're going to a program with your basic plan, 25% total renewable energy, 50%, which would be a default, that's called the Keene 50, 50% of total renewable energy, and then the Keene 100, that's 100% of all the energy you're gonna buy is from that non-polluting energy sources. I'm sure that the amount of time they spent analyzing this was reflective of how the time is changing, and we're trying to move closer to our goals. We've got some goals coming up in 2030, and thereafter, we've got to get moving on getting everybody on board to have an energy system that's not polluting. So we're moving towards that. So the recommendation here that you're first going to vote on is to have this 3-part program as we go through in the next year. Remember, at the end of it all, there's a contract to be negotiated, but this gives the authority and adopts the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. And Counselor Haas?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a question for Councilor Powers and the committee. Some part of the percentage renewable energy is state mandated. Might you clarify that for us so we understand what those really mean as we're obligating locally versus being obligated upon? Thank you.
I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm gonna ask Mary to come up, but you're absolutely right, and this isn't not working. She's coming up anyways, but the basic option does include a percentage of renewable that's required at the state level. Is it the 25%?
Yes, that's correct. So Mary Brenner, Senior Planner, the state has a renewable portfolio standard that is about 25%, and after this year, it's just leveling out at 25%. It's not going to keep increasing from there. And that has to, all electricity that's supplied in New Hampshire has to meet that 25% requirement. This program adds additional renewable energy on top of that for some of the options, but not the basic option. Yeah.
Counselor Haas?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, I think that's important to clarify that the default option, no, the basic option, the lowest option, as that's where the city recognizes it. Some people may not want to participate in this. So, thank you.
Yes, and Mary, if you'll remain here for the questions.
Can I just clarify a little bit?
Sure.
So the basic option, which is at that minimum 25%, would require someone who currently is on the default to call in to downgrade to the basic option. The default in the new plan is going from a total of 35% renewable to 50% renewable.
Thank you. That's important clarification. Thank you. Any other further comments? I think this is, these recommendations came from our Energy and Climate Committee, and they're important clarifications for how the city move forward with community power and towards its 2030 goal. Okay. There may be questions on parts 2 and 3. So seeing no further comment, all those in favor of motion number 1 on community power? We have a unanimous vote. Any opposed? Seeing none.
Committee
Okay.
recommendations continue. On a vote of 3-2, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends that an adder fee be included for the city manager to negotiate, which is recommended to be between 0.075 and 0.125 cents per kilowatt. Councilors Remy and Chadbourne voted in opposition.
And a motion from Councilor Powers for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to carry out the intent of the second recommendation in the committee report.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Lake. Councilor Powers for the committee.
There will be a significant number of questions, I'm sure, on this, and I'm going to not try to butcher it, but essentially this adder pulls up some money for future programs, and it would be on the second and the third tier. We had discussions amongst the committee. Rightfully so, there's a concern that as we begin to add little pieces, even though they seem small, they can begin to add up for all of us. You know, it may well be small today, but tomorrow it could be pretty large. But the scale was between $8 a year to $80 a year. And, you know, it may not seem a lot to some, but it may seem significant to others just because of their condition. And I'll let those who had significant discussion on committee add to that, but it's going to be your choice. We didn't want to bring it some forward where we're jamming something down. Recommended by our committee, Climate Committee. We've talked about it, and we'll let the council make that final decision. Thank you.
Councilor Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to add a little clarification too, I know the counselor mentioned it, but this would just be applied, the intent at least is to be applied to just the 50% and the 100. This wouldn't be applied to the basic plan. So if people are looking for that cost-effective plan, they can always opt down to that 25% plan. So I know that was certainly a point of contention when we were in committee, so just wanted to clarify that. But the intent of putting this adder fee on is really so that we as a community can really work towards more energy efficient appliances in the community, really trying to put together a fund so that we can help out our community members work towards the goals that the council put in place to get towards more renewable energy, more energy efficiency. The committee actually a couple of years ago had done a very similar program with the window inserts. Some of you may recall or may have heard of that program, where the committee actually had gone out and worked with a number of community members to get these inserts into these older homes that had really bad insulation or bad draft problems with their windows, to actually capture more heat in the winters in the houses so that they would spend less money on their fuel needs, so less oil, less propane that they would need. What we want to do is we really want to try to have a fund where we can expand these energy efficiency programs to, again, help out the larger community. So I think this is going to be a really good adder. This is going to be a really good benefit that we can build on over the years, and so I do hope that people vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you. It is still providing choice to the consumer. Sure enough.
One thing, actually, the city attorney pointed out, in the motion, the second motion, it doesn't specifically say it's just for the Keen 50 and the Keen 100. And so that might be an amendment to the motion to make sure that that's clear, that it's not on the basic plan. It's clear in the plan, but not in the motion. And then also I wanted to just say that a tenth of a cent, which we struggled with where this decimal point belongs, but a tenth of a cent on the Keen 50 and the Keen 100 would bring in about $58,000 a year. Those funds would be deposited into an account that's already established. We have about $75,000 in it right now. We are collecting from a virtual net metering agreement. They offered it to us and we said sure. So we've been depositing the money in there. When the money is coming forward to the council, it would come forward by a recommendation from the Energy Committee through my office to you to actually spend. So you would be appropriating the funds for the purposes that are being presented to you. And so until that time, the money is collected in this fund and it remains there.
Okay, I see Councilor Favelis, Councilor Bosley, and Councilor Greenwald.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have, I watched the FOP meeting. I've, read through the recommendations and read through the background notes of the Energy and Climate Committee meeting, and I've really struggled with what I think about this adder fee. I think that where I come down ultimately and how I'm going to vote on this tonight is that I would not have a problem with this fee if it were an opt-in. Unfortunately, it is an opt-out. And so while I think that the goals that Councilor Lake has expressed about helping us meet, our renewable energy and clean energy goals as a community, helping with energy efficiency projects across the city, I think those are really noble goals, and I think those are really good faith goals. But as Councilor Powers alluded to, for my constituents, for all of our constituents, a little bit here and there starts adding up to be a lot. And I am a little bit uncomfortable with the idea of having this fee included as part of the default plan that folks need to opt out of. And because I think that participation in the community power plan is important for us to meet our goals as a community that we've set in terms of renewable energy and clean energy, I don't want to create an incentive for folks to be opting out of the community power plan. And so I'm, I don't have an amendment to make around this. I'm certainly, open to hearing further discussion about what form this might take, but I don't like the idea of adding an additional fee that folks are going to have to take a step to get out of paying. So, thank you.
Councilor Bosley.
Thank you. So, sort of piggybacking on what Counselor Favlis said, I'm coming to this topic a little bit late, and I'm learning here as we're discussing it a little bit, but I want to bring to the conversation my personal experience with opting out of Keene Community Power and opting into Cheshire County Community Power. And I think as we all get savvier and we all get increased electric bills at our homes, we are going to start looking at the best ways to control some of these costs. And so for me, it became very clear to me that if I went to Cheshire County Community Power, that I was able to save almost 2 cents, I believe, a kilowatt hour during that period of time. And there aren't fees to opt in and out of these programs. So it does take a month or two to switch, and as our community members become savvier about this, they're going to learn how to play their own advantages here. And my fear is that if we create a program that has fees, that people will opt out of Keene's Community Power and opt into Cheshire County's Community Power and choose a lower rate for themselves and possibly choose less clean energy because of that. So I'm a little bit nervous about creating a blanket policy that's going to add this fee to all of these rates. I think that the way that the motion has been conveyed, that that's the way it would read. If there was a potential amendment to change that, I might consider that. But on the surface, I think we're setting ourselves up to lose a lot of participants.
Councilor Greenwald.
Thank you. Two thoughts. One, I'm waiting till next February when I can finally escape from a horrible contract that I signed 3.5 years ago that is way above all of these. Not related to anything. I'm just whining, as I told them I was going to do. I could name names. Anyhow, what I'm wanting to hear before I vote affirmatively, how is this adder going to do anything that the Eversource program already doesn't do? They send out mailings, they have a website, they're basically encouraging all this energy efficiency that we're looking for. I don't know, 58,000 is not going to really do more than a couple of mass mailings that are going to go into the recycling, hopefully recycling, not trash. So at the moment, I'm not feeling very favorable unless someone can answer the question.
Mary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have a couple of things I want to just mention, but to the most immediate question. This program, these funds would be up to this body to determine how to spend them. But I believe the way that the Energy and Climate Committee was imagining this is that the programs would actually layer on top of other programs that already exist. So rather than being promotional for programs that are out there, it would actually add on top. So let's say right now, New Hampshire Saves will give you $30, a $30 rebate for getting an energy efficient refrigerator. This program could maybe add another $50 on top of that. Those are made up numbers. But so it would actually be not paying for the whole thing, but giving a sort of incentive or helping to offset some of the costs for people to reduce their energy use. And ultimately, I think the goal would be to save more money than it costs to have the fee. I do want to say that this is something that communities around the state are doing right now, including Cheshire Community Power. I believe they have a fee on theirs as well. The major component of the cost for the supply rate is not necessarily this adder fee. This is actually a very small component. The main component is the cost of the electricity supply itself, and a big factor of that is the percentage of renewable energy in it, because in order to claim the benefits of that renewable energy, in order to say, oh yes, this is 50% green or 100% green, in addition to buying the electricity, we also have to buy a renewable energy credit that's associated with that electricity. So that's the only reason the renewable energy costs more, is because we have to basically buy the rights to claim it. It's a very strange thing that I don't fully understand, but it's basically a way to create a market for renewable energy. And so that is actually a much larger impact on the cost of the electricity rate than the adder fee. So for example, our consultants estimated that going up, adding an additional 25% renewable electricity above the mandated 25% from the state would add, I believe it was $0.01 per kilowatt hour, whereas the adder fee would be 1/10 of a cent. So I just want to make that clear because I think that it's getting confusing. Probably my fault. I apologize for that.
Counselor Fablese.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question for Mary, if she'll take it.
Yep.
I'm not privy to all the conversations that staff or the Climate Commission have had with the consultant, and I know that we did just, in the prior discussion, approve a specific, a three kind of category or three-tier plan with specific numbers of or percentages of renewable energy associated with it. Have we got any sense from the consultant if there is a percentage of renewable energy that could help balance out these concerns around the adder fee as well in terms of the cost to our constituents?
Yeah, please, Mary.
Thank you. Yes, I did reach out to our consultants to let them know that some concerns had been raised about the adder fee and how that could be balanced, or if they had any recommendations, and really to see what other communities that they've worked with have done. They did say that no other community that they've worked with has put an adder fee on just an optional product, just because the overhead cost of managing it isn't worth what you get from it. And so they did say that unless you have a large number of people that are opting up to 100%, it might not be worth it to put it on the 100% optional product if you're not also including it on the default. And I asked, and then a follow-up question was, well, how could these concerns be balanced? And so one thing that our consultant recommended was doubling the amount of renewable energy in the default that we have today, which would bring us up from 10% extra to 20% extra, or I believe it's 45% total, and then for renewable energy in the default, and that would more than offset the cost of the 10th% adder. Sorry.
Yeah, I get it. It sounds like we're beginning to do some committee work here. Well, there are a number of options, as we've learned through our workshop, as to how we proceed from here. Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm just uncomfortable with an adder fee. Let's let it stand on itself. I'd be much more comfortable with voting funds to the Energy Committee for them to use for these purposes and have it shown that way. But to have it in an adder fee is just another means of, frankly, government subterfuge of putting fees on here and there wherever you can. And as I said, I'd much rather support it upright. So, thank you.
Councilor Chadbourne hasn't spoken yet, and we'll recognize her first, and then Councilor Lake.
Thank you. Thank you. One thing that I wanted to mention, at the last meeting, I didn't recognize the commitment and the work that the committee did and that staff has done on this, and I do appreciate that, and I think this city is very forward-thinking and I think is, ahead of so many places, and it's a great goal to do what we're doing with energy. But I also think we're in incredibly uncertain times, and we have a lot of people in this community that are on fixed incomes, and as Councilor Fablese mentioned, there's a default, and so somebody comes and sets up an account, it defaults to that middle one, which comes with this fee. And the other thing I kind of want to weave into this is years ago, under the former city manager, they were looking at very creative ways to raise money without taxation. So they were coming up with all these little fees. And there was one that a former counselor, Chuck Redfern, came up with. And there were actually 2 or 3 fees that we added to registering your vehicles. And one was like $2 and one was $3. I still hear to this day what they call the Chuck fee. And people are still irritated about it. They're still angry with it. And they feel like they're hidden fees, and somehow they're not transparent, and you don't know it until after you pay for it, and then you look and you call and you question. Not everybody keeps up with all the city business. So, I mean, I'm weary of having an adder fee for so many reasons, for the opt-in, opt-out, for the people that are on fixed incomes, for the people who feel like we need to be transparent and we need to stop adding, all these little hidden fees. And even if we send literature and we're spelling it out, that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody reads it, and then they discover it at some point. So, I mean, I appreciate what the staff and what the committee is doing, and I just don't support this adder fee.
Thank you. Counselor Jones. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed. Next.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead, Counselor.
Well, I have a few questions, Your Honor. The first is for Mary. I think hearing Bettina talked about the default to 50%, and it does say default to 50 here, but didn't you say that the default is 25%?
May I, Mr.?
Yeah, yes, please, and Counselor, if you direct the questions to the chair, and then I think we'll follow the format. Mary, please address it.
Thank you. So the default that is being recommended, and I believe in the first motion, was set at 50% renewable, which is 25% extra renewable energy above the state mandated minimum. And then there would be a basic option that's 25%. But if somebody were to automatically be enrolled in the program, they would be at that 50% renewable, and they'd have to either call in or fill out an online form to go down to that 25% option.
Yes, Counselor Jones.
Thank you. This time I'll direct it to the city
Yeah.
manager, based on her comments.
I'll take it, and I hope she's paying close attention. Thanks for the heads up.
You mentioned the funds being used, and they would be used towards products and services like, there was a program that you inherited called the Ecosystem through, I forget the name of the company. Do you remember that? The Honeywell. Yes.
Monitoring,
Yes. It's systems like that, it's products like that, products and services that the people would benefit from, similar to that?
I would say potentially. I mean, there are a lot of,
Please.
there are a lot of ideas that the committee has been discussing that, and I also want to say, the default that we currently have is at 35%. So not to confuse you even more, but so the default is only increasing by 15% renewable with your last motion that you made. In regards to the programs that you could potentially put in place with the help of the Energy Committee, there are things that we talked about, like adding on to rebate programs, energy monitoring. There are lots of ideas. And one of the things that is great about the adder fee, if you supported it, is it's local. So when Mary was explaining changing your default rate to 50% renewable energy, we're not getting it local. We are making a difference in the climate. We are reducing our carbon footprint, but it's not local. The adder fee is strictly for Keene residents, local programs that would benefit this community.
May I ask one last?
Another question?
Yeah, the beneficiaries, would that be just the 50% and 100% people, or would all be entitled to benefits from this?
All.
Thank you.
Counselor Lake?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And to clarify further on that last piece, it'd be open to the people that are part of the program, whether they're on basic,
Right.
default, or 100. It wouldn't be people outside of the program. But to go further on that, to Councilor Hawes's comment about potentially using the general fund to fund these programs, the intent would be that, as we do with many other fees or self-funding funds, is that we'd be taking things coming from this energy program, this energy initiative, to put back into energy initiatives, rather than having the entirety of the community that may not be involved in this program to have to pay for something that they are not going to get a direct benefit from. So I think that's an important clarification for why we want to do it this way, that it would be coming back. There was also a comment about these are uncertain times, and I certainly agree that these are uncertain times. We don't know what the future of inflation looks like. We don't know what energy costs are going to look like in the future, and we don't know what these programs are going to look like coming from the state or from the federal government. These benefit programs are going to look like in the future. That's why it's important, as the city manager said, that we keep this local, that we have these local programs that can help our local community members. So I thank you to the city manager for those comments as well. And so I know there was a comment earlier that we may want to make a small amendment to the motion. So I do want to move to amend to clarify that the adder fee is only applied to the Keene 50 and the Keene 100.
Second.
Thank you. And just for clarification, the adder fee of a 0.75% is related to the 50% rate, and right, and the adder fee of 0.125% is specific to the 100% rate. No. Please clarify.
Yes, so we were hoping for a range that would apply, so whatever numbers decided on would apply to both the 50 and the Keene 100. And the reason for the range is it depends on the pricing. So you would go with a lower adder fee if the pricing is not where you had hoped it would be, whereas if the pricing was aggressive, we might be able to go towards a little bit higher adder fee. So that's why the range.
So the amendment is that this would, this range of an adder fee, which would be about 0.1%, would be for the Keene 50 and Keene 100 plans. Essentially 1/100th of a cent. Councilor Bosley.
Okay, so I think I've wrapped my head around where I stand with this at this point. For me, the fact that we currently have people in the Keene Community Power Program who've opted into a 35% renewable energy plan that are going to be shifted by default to a 50% renewable energy plan, which is probably going to be at an increased rate, and then we're going to add an adder fee to that rate, I'm not comfortable with and I'm not going to support. I do support the amendment and limiting the fee, if it were to move forward at all, to only those upper two tiers. And I would only support this then if that default rate was to the 25% rate, where people who are on the 35% rate currently defaulted down and then could opt in and choose a higher percentage of renewable energy and to choose to pay the fee. And then they could choose to opt into another program if they don't like our program. And I think that that would only happen with a reconsideration of our initial vote.
The first motion.
Which I don't know if we can do in the same meeting. So hold. So I don't know how many kinks I'm throwing into the conversation at this point, but I will support the amendment to hear, because I feel like it's the least of all the evils, but I will not support it overall if we cannot change the default to the 25%.
Counselor Chadbourne.
Yeah, I just want to say, we talked about it being local, but, I mean, there's so many programs right now. Southwestern Community offers to do an energy audit and to help you out, and actually gives you, I've used it, and they give you lots of stuff to improve, yeah. And then, I'm sorry, I forget the words. And then, Liberty Utilities offers a program, and Eversource offers a program. And again, there's a lot of people on fixed or limited incomes, and $8 here and $10 there, it all adds up, and like I said, it's uncertain times. So, I mean, I'm sticking with the vote that I took at the committee level.
Counselor Fablese.
Thank you. Just a parliamentary inquiry for the city attorney. The rules for reconsideration, is there a reason that the council couldn't suspend that rule and consider a reconsideration tonight? Okay, thank you.
At a majority vote?
Two-thirds.
No.
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds vote.
Yeah, that's what that's why I asked.
We could send it back to you too, right?
Can we call the question
It-
on the amendment? There's an amendment on the floor. There's an amendment on the floor.
Yeah, there is an amendment on the floor.
Counselor Williams.
Call the question on the amendment.
Thank you. Seeing no objection to calling the question, all those in favor, everybody understand the amendment? The amendment is to clarify that the range specified in the motion is applicable to Keene 50 and Keene 100 rates. All those in favor of the amendment? That motion is got 10 votes and, what? I'm sorry, let's see the hands again. All those in favor of adding this amendment to the second motion, the motion carries unanimously. So we now have an amended motion clarifying that the adder rate is only applicable to upper two tiers, but that it does include the default rate. So motion is on the floor as amended. Councilor Williams?
Just to say, I support this. What I prefer about this over simply allocating taxes from the general fund is that, the people who use the most electricity pay the most. And I think that's an important factor here. And, the money goes back into the community. So overall, I expect Keene as a whole will come out ahead. And so that's why I'm supporting this.
Okay, and Councilor Bosley?
To the city attorney, I just want to make sure that I'm doing this correctly, but I would like to move to table this item for a potential rules suspension for a reconsideration.
Second.
Turn to the
It's a
city attorney.
preferential motion. It would table the item. So there's a motion on the floor, seconded to table the item, as we all recall. That will send it to the next city council meeting, or within 3 months. At the next city council meeting, you could postpone it to a date certain, but a motion to table would put it off to the next city council meeting.
That is a priority motion, so we will take a vote on tabling this motion to a date certain to be decided.
Well, to
the
next
next
city
meeting. To
council
the next
meeting.
meeting, yeah, of this council. Okay, all those in favor of tabling the motion to the next meeting?
1, 2, 3,
Okay,
4, 5, 6, 7.
What is it now? 1, 2,
okay, we've got 3, 7. 7 in favor of tabling, and all those opposed to tabling motion
Could you leave your hands up for a second?
is 5.
Let's table.
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
So,
Motion is
Motion
motion is tabled. with an affirmative vote.
I'm sorry?
So I would like.
Yes, I'd like to recognize Counselor Bosley for a motion.
So if we suspend our rules for reconsideration of the initial vote under this item, can we take that item off the table tonight?
No,
Later?
the
No,
whole
we have to wait.
thing,
So we'll wait till the following.
whole thing.
Move for
is then
reconsideration at the next meeting.
It's fine.
On to the next city council meeting.
And relative to the next motion, City Attorney, I think the next motion was really dependent upon the passage of the second motion.
Oh, no, the item is
The whole thing?
tabled, basically.
Oh,
May have
for the
tabled.
rest.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, we tabled this matter.
Why I asked that
I would
question.
like to suggest, however, or say, with respect to the very first item that you acted on at this point, because that follows along on the table at this point. Somebody could move to reconsider that
At the next
under the rules. You could do it now, well, you could do it in accordance with the rules. File your motion to, or request that you were going to reconsider that first motion. That was-
Tonight.
No,
No.
at the next
The
city
next
council
meeting.
meeting.
Yeah.
So, and
No,
you have
not
to
tonight.
file a
Can't.
motion to.
You have to file a
request.
notice with the city clerk, whoever's going to do it.
So noticed.
Yeah, that you would
Not
want to
quite.
reconsider.
So I have to write it down.
Okay, good.
Counselor House?
Your Honor, just a question for City Manager. Is there a time press on this? I thought there was. And if so, it behooves us to come.
Yeah, I mean, right. Do you want me to answer the question? So bidding out power is very time sensitive. There are better times of the year to bid it out than others. And I think that to the next meeting will be fine. I wouldn't want to push it much further than that because they are trying to get us out to bid. And what they will do is the consultants will monitor the market. And then when the time is right, we will go out to bid. So that is something to keep in mind.
So I'd just urge all of us to come prepared to deal with it next time. Thank you.
And not that you want my preference, but I'm going to give it to you anyways, because I prefer the 50% default and not approving the outer fee. And the reason for that is the majority of the people who are on our community power plan will be on the default plan. So therefore, you have moved the majority of the City of Keene electrical accounts to a higher percentage of renewable energy. The adder fee is something that is local and would be something that we could support in the community, but if you're really focused on your energy goals, that moves the needle faster. So.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, I'm wanting to just be clear here that we did adopt a first motion.
Right, but that's following along with the underlying question on the tape to the next council meeting. So at the next council meeting, this amendment, the first amendment would have followed through with it, it would have been approved. That's why I suggested that if you wanted to change that first motion, somebody could file a motion for reconsideration at the same time.
Can you turn on your microphone, please?
It was on. Somebody could file a motion for reconsideration in accordance with the rule.
Yes, but if one was so inclined to hear the manager's preference, the action that was taken on the first motion would stand. The action on the second motion would, I have to come off the table and be defeated to follow what the manager just said.
That would be true. Council Fabelous has a
I'm
question.
giving us, I want to be clear so that we don't take a step that people don't want to take. And, yes, Counselor Fabelous.
Thank you. I have another parliamentary inquiry for the city attorney. I heard Councilor Powers make a motion relative to the 3 tiers of the plan.
Yes.
It was seconded.
Yeah.
Council took a vote on that,
Yes.
the mayor reported the results of that.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
We then asked for a second separate motion from
Yes.
Councilor
Yeah.
Powers. So I'm struggling with the parliamentary procedure, the process of why one is,
Because we acted on it. We acted on it before it was tabled. That's why. So the amendment, the first one was adopted by the council, the first amendment, or the first proposal.
Motion.
First motion. That was acted on by the council. So that's attached now to what's being what was tabled. So if you want to change that,
and I guess that I don't understand when that got attached, because what I heard.
as soon as the motion was approved, it was a vote to 12 to, was it this one?
Nothing.
12 to nothing on the first one. So that motion was adopted with respect to the underlying question that's on the table, which is the power plant itself. So that motion is now attached to the underlying question, which is the power plant. That follows through. The other two motions, at this point, nothing happened with them. They can be brought up again when it's taken off the table. And if you want to change the first one, that's why I'm suggesting that somebody on the council could file a motion for reconsideration of that particular action.
Reconsideration
For the first motion that was adopted.
for the council.
Yes, at the next council meeting. Because if you want to change, if you want to do the other things that are being suggested, you got to change that one.
I'm going to ask for some clarification again, Attorney. And it has to do with the third motion in particular.
We're not there yet.
If we've adopted the first motion,
Yes.
and the second motion is tabled, which had to do with the adder fee, why would the council not take up the third motion tonight? Wait for me to finish. Take up the third motion tonight, which essentially would be adopting the community power plan with the first motion schedule, and we would have a plan, much like what the city manager had suggested to us. All right, that's my parliamentary inquiry.
That's right. The plan includes the adder fee at this point. So the two are sort of connected. You can't go back now and change the third motion to remove the adder fee if you consider that you have tabled the second motion at this
Okay,
point.
so.
That's the problem.
And let me try one more time.
I want to be clear about this. You all decide what you want to do. I'm just telling you what I think the process requires.
Yeah.
If you don't like that, you can do something about it.
And well, wait. If the third motion that's in front of us, if it was amended to strike the last clause of that sentence, in other words, if it stated that we adopt the FOP recommendation of the community power plan, leaving out the notion of the amendments that were made at the February 10th meeting.
Well, because there were more amendments that were made at the February 10th meeting. It wasn't just this adder provision that's in it. There were other matters that were amended in that process. That would be my response to you, that it doesn't do that. And otherwise, you wouldn't be adopting the plan that's being proposed as of February 10th, 2025. Counselor Favelis, if you don't mind.
Yes,
If you don't mind.
I will recognize Counselor Favelis, Attorney.
I have another parliamentary inquiry because I think there's two kinds of conversations happening here. I understand the city attorney's position on the third motion, which is the adoption of the plan. I am not understanding how a motion that the council has already acted on and has been dispensed with tonight has followed a separate motion to the table. I heard Councilor Bosley's, so Councilor Bosley had asked, could we suspend the rules, could we reconsider the first vote that we took as part of this report, separate
Yes.
motion,
Yes.
which is an important distinction, around what the tiers are.
You could suspend your rule
and reconsider that tonight. However, from my perspective, all of these motions are attached to the underlying main question. And the main question is, what do you do with this power plan? That's the ultimate result of all of this. So from my perspective, the motion to table takes all of this and puts it there, because separating them out, and this is what I understand the mayor is trying to do with respect to number 3, and that's from my perspective, that's a problem, because then you have these other motions that are just sort of now not attached to anything. That's, at least from my perspective, that's what I'm saying. That's why when the motion to table came in, from my perspective, you're sending the whole thing down the line at this point, with that amendment attached to it, because it was approved by the city council.
Okay, so I guess a question that I would have would be that if, in keeping with Counselor, we suspend the rules, we reconsider the first motion around what the tiers are. After that vote, somebody moves to remove from the table the adder fee question. Okay, the decision is made then on both of those two motions. I think is my understanding correct? I'm looking for guidance from the city attorney here. Is my understanding correct that then in order to amend the actual power plan, the language itself, there could be a motion to re-refer this to the FOP committee and we could just dispense with this tonight? Is there a parliamentary reason why we can't dispense with?
In thinking through it, what I would suggest that you do, if you want to follow that, would be to move to suspend the rule on reconsideration. Reconsider the first amendment at this point, with respect to the 50, the 25, the 50, or whatever.
The first motion.
But I think in order to do that, you'd need, from my perspective anyway, you need to take the whole thing back off the table again.
Which Robert's rule says we can do.
You can do in the same meeting. You can do that tonight. You can move to take it from the table now and start this conversation over again. You can do that.
So, and the question.
But you have to suspend the rule to reconsider the First Amendment.
So,
I have another question.
okay, because I'm looking for the motion to reconsider if there is such a one.
Well, first to take it from the table.
But, Counselor Chadwin.
Well, I would have concerns about reconsidering it, because I feel like there's still confusion amongst council members. So I don't want to throw a monkey wrench in, and I know the size that I'm going to get. So, but I was just thinking with the confusion, should we be sending it back to committee before coming to the next council meeting? Just a question.
That, I think that's what I heard was the question that Counselor Favelis was raising, that we accept a motion now to suspend our rules.
We don't have to suspend our rules to take it from the table.
You can take it from the table. Somebody could move to take it from the table. If there was a second, then you can bring it back, right back again.
Well, it is the adder fee that was tabled.
That's not the position I have been taking. The position I
hear
have been
that.
taking is, when the motion to table happened, it's to take remember, there's a main motion, basically, that has to happen, and that's with the adoption of the community power plan, with or without amendments as was proposed. So, from my perspective, just because it was on number 2 of the motion, doesn't mean that you're just tabling that piece.
Okay. All right, are people following that, I'll try to repeat it, and your point is the main topic in front of the council tonight is the third motion.
Right.
To adopt a community power plan
Yes.
with its amendments.
Yes.
And that by tabling any part of this.
Yes.
We have essentially suspended further consideration of any part of the community power plan.
Yes.
So if there were to be a suggestion that this community power plan go back to the committee as an action, we would first need to take this off of the table.
Yes.
And make that recommendation, have that motion be brought to the table.
You could take it off the you would have to take it off the table to do a referral, because the lay on the table is the queen
So-
on the chessboard.
Yes.
So, but you take it off the table, if you take it off the table tonight, you can, you could refer it to committee, you could do, you can,
All sorts of things.
you could have a broader discussion again about the plan.
Same motion, it would be like, take it off the table and move it to the committee?
No.
The same
No,
motion?
you have to be two motions. But back to the mayor's point about trying to deal with this tonight, because before we got into this process, one of the things that I was thinking to deal with this first motion that was made, because remember, it's just a motion. The final action is adopting this community power plan, right? That's the last motion. That motion itself could be amended to reflect a change in the default rates at that point. You could do it there.
Counselor Filio?
And this is why we all need to learn the rules of order, and not to challenge the city attorney on the rules of order. Once again, it's a rule of order issue, another week. We've gone 40 minutes on this. We've gone nowhere. We've gone backwards. The motion on the floor is the table. The motion on the table was approved. Let it go. Let it be tabled. Yes, it might jam things a little bit and push us back a month. But I can tell you now, if we bring this back up again tonight, we're still going nowhere. It came out of committee 3-2, so obviously it wasn't going to be unanimous anyhow. At this point, and once again, we're struggling with the rules of order. What's the rule of order? Challenge the rule of order. We're not sure about the rule of order. What rule of order do? What's the rule of order if we take it off the table? Can we take it off the table? Nobody suspend the rules to take it off the table. Nobody really knows. Once again, it's not knowing the rules of order. So the motion on the floor is the table. This isn't earth-shattering. This isn't life-threatening. Let it go to the table, let it get resolved, and then let it come back. Enough with this, please.
I think the motion that I'd like to entertain is to reconsider, or to take off the table the previous motion.
You can do that. It has to be a motion and a second, and then it has to be adopted.
That will allow a next motion to bring this back to committee.
So moved. Do we get a second? Send it back to committee.
No,
No.
the motion
Take
is
it
to
off
take it off the
Take it
table.
from the table.
Okay, there's a motion to take this off the table.
Second?
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay. So, if we want to continue the motion, the conversation,
Well, you have to vote on it, no?
yes, we do need to vote. If a vote in favor would allow a subsequent motion to send it back to committee. A vote against will leave this on the table to the next meeting.
To the next meeting.
Okay? All those in favor of taking this off the table?
2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5.
We only have 5. All those against taking this off the table? We have 7. So we do move on. Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So now we have the first section. We've been noticed by Kate that she's going to put it in for reconsideration. Second section is tabled. Wouldn't it be proper now just to ask the chair to bring forward the third section and take a vote to table it?
No.
And then it would go right along with the second.
I'm going to refer to the city attorney.
I've already stated my position with respect to this. I know that Councilor Favelis and I think, disagree on this.
But from my perspective, the main motion has been placed on the table at this point. The main motion was to adopt the power plan. Because you adopted the First Amendment, or the first motion, that follows along with it over until the next city council meeting.
Okay. All 3 motions are, and the topic is tabled to the next meeting.
Yes.
Moving on.
Thank you.
Thank you. These are the evenings that I'm really happy I'm the city manager and not the city attorney. Right, get going out with a bang.
Sending you out with a bash.
All right, just a few updates for you this evening. The Public Works Director sent me some fun statistics to share. So far in the month of February, we have had 6 separate storm events. We've received 21.8 inches of snow or ice, snow and ice. In responding to these storms, it has cost us $181,000. Crews have accumulated 1881, so just under 2,000 hours of work. We've used 892 tons of salt. And over the course of the entire winter, we've used a total of 2,283 tons of salt. On average, we use about 150 tons per storm, but it can vary depending upon the conditions. And currently, we have about 1,200 tons of salt in stock. So we do have salt. That question came up this week. So thank you for sharing those statistics. You've been busy. I have some exciting news, actually. We had a meeting this week with Eversource, and we are excited to share that Keene has been selected as a recipient for tree donations through Eversource Energy Saving Tree Program in partnership with the Arbor Day Foundation. This initiative supports urban tree canopy expansion and increases green space in communities while providing energy-saving benefits to residents. Through this program, eligible Keene residents can reserve a free tree, which they can plant strategically to reduce their energy costs by up to 20% and maximize environmental benefits. The program will offer an interactive web tool to guide homeowners in selecting the right tree for the right location. So I think it's going to be really a great event. We're planning this for some time in May. We're still working out the details, location, and all of that. So more information will be provided. We've already talked about the upcoming Hazard Mitigation Plan meeting on February 27th at the library, so I won't talk more about that. And then just a reminder this evening for anyone who's watching, we do have a winter weather parking ban from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m., and that is so the Public Works crew can continue to clean up around parking stalls, parking meters, and some of those other areas that we do last. And that's all for me.
Thank you. And I know the Public Works Department has been extraordinarily busy. I appreciate every time that I read that there is a reenacting of, or re-implementing of the parking ban. I know that it is to facilitate additional overtime hours for the city to have cleanup for the next day's travel and parking and conditions. So I'm very appreciative of people that have day after day offered their services to the city that go beyond their normal workday. Okay, it doesn't say how many inches of ice we've gotten as well. All right, moving along. We move on to section J, and reading of second ordinances. Turn to the city clerk.
And starting off with planning licenses and development committee report relative to ordinance O 2024-17A.
Can you turn on your microphone, please?
Going on to the Planning Licenses and Development Committee report relative to ordinance O 2024-17A. Committee's recommending the adoption of the ordinance. And we have ordinance O 2024-17A, an ordinance relating to minimum lot sizes in the medium density, high density, and downtown transition districts.
I recognize Counselor Bosley for a motion.
Move to adopt ordinance O-2024-17-A.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Bosley and seconded by Counselor Jones. Counselor Bosley for the committee.
Thank you. My comments on this one are going to be brief tonight. This is a pretty simple ordinance change. It does not change the underlying minimum square footage for original dwelling units in the zones. It does remove the additional requirement for increased square footage for additional dwelling units. And this will help create some density along with a few other proposals that you're gonna hear from PLD this evening. And it'll put us that much better in position to meet our future housing goals.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Thank you. All those in favor of the motion as presented?
Roll.
Need a roll call. Darn.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Tobin?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Favelis?
Yes.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Our
Motion
sec-
carries unanimously.
Our second report from Planning Licenses and Development is on Ordinance O 2024-20A. Committee is recommending the adoption of that ordinance. And it is Ordinance O 2024-20A, an ordinance relating to residential parking requirements.
Recognize Counselor Bosley again for a motion.
Move to adopt ordinance O-2024-20-A.
Second?
Right. Seconded by Counselor Jones. Counselor Bosley for the committee.
So the basic idea for this change is to come into compliance with House Bill 1400, which was passed in 2024. That's where this started from. That bill stated that we could not have a restriction in place that was any greater than 1.5 spaces per unit in multifamily projects of 10 or more. It also had lower minimum restrictions for studio and one-bedroom workforce housing units, and it addressed the ability for municipalities to require a process to consider alternative parking solutions, and the stipulation that we have to approve those if they can prove that their alternative parking solution met the requirement for the new residential project. So those were some pretty those were stricter standards than what we were currently holding ourselves to. So the proposal came before Joint Committee, and at the workshop phase, we discussed that we felt 1 space per unit was a good step improving our parking restrictions, and that ultimately the market is going to determine if a developer would like to create more spaces than that, but that would be a good place to start as a minimum. And this came out of the committee unanimously.
And any further comment? Seeing none, go to a vote.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Tobin?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Favelis?
Yes.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Report is Planning License and Development Committee. This one's on Ordinance O 2024-24A. Committee is recommending the adoption, and it's Ordinance O 2024-24A, an ordinance relating to amendments to the zoning ordinance interior side and rear setback requirements in the downtown edge zone.
Counselor Bosley for a motion.
Thank you,
Counselor
Your Honor.
Bosley for a motion.
Move to adopt ordinance O-2024-24-A.
Second?
Seconded by Counselor Jones. Counselor Bosley with a motion for the committee.
Yes, thank you. So this is a change to the ordinance in regards to the downtown edge zone. Currently, the underlying zone has no setback requirements. There were some provisions in the original wording for the land development code that allowed for increased setbacks only when properties abutted downtown transition, which was a specific call-out. After carefully, this proposal was brought to us by a community member, and we heard it at workshop at the Joint Committee, and we looked very closely at maps of this zone, and we realized that this particular portion of the LDC only affected 3 to 4 parcels of land, and one of those was actually already non-conforming. So the committee looked at what that zone's intention was, and we felt like this change actually spoke to the feel of the intention of the purpose of that zone, and the committee fully supported this.
Any further comment from counselors? Seeing none.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Tobin?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Favelis?
Yes.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. On to J4.
And our final ordinance for second reading is from the Planning, License, and Development Committee. It's on ordinance O-2505. The committee is recommending the adoption, and it's ordinance O-2025-05, an ordinance relating to floodplain ordinance appeal process, Articles 24 of the floodplain regulations, 26 of the application procedures, and Section 27 dealing with appeals.
Thank you. Counselor Bosley for a motion.
Move to adopt ordinance O-2025-05.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Jones. Counselor Bosley.
So the last ordinance that I'm going to be talking to you guys tonight is in regards to language affecting the variance and appeals process for floodplains. During our most recent CRD review, the floodplain coordinator noted that per New Hampshire RSA 674:56 flood hazards, the city is required to have a variance and appeals process, which we did not have. So this is new language presented here that would allow the ZBA to determine and render judgment on appeals and variances. There are some housekeeping changes in here to things like the definition of the word development as it applies to floodplains specifically. But basically, this change is to bring us in compliance and give us a better process in general, and the committee fully supported it.
Comments from counselors? Counselor Jones.
Thank you. This could sound very complex, but I'd like to thank Mike Hagan for the way he presented it. It was clearly presented that people have to address these issues. I know he did a great job at the steering committee meeting. He did it at the PLD. I've heard him do it on the radio. The word is out there and that we have to make these variances, so that's great.
Very good. Thank you. To Community Development, Michael, for your work. Seeing no further questions?
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Tobin?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Favelis?
Yes.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
Now
Okay.
we're on to resolutions.
Yes.
We got a few of them. So we're starting with Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee. It's dealing with Resolution R 2025-04. The committee is recommending the adoption of the resolution. And the resolution state is R 2025-04, a resolution relating to appropriations for an ADA ramp at the Recreation Center.
Counselor Powers for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move for the adoption of Resolution 2025-04.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Lake. Counselor Powers for the committee.
This is our favorite walkway from the rec center down to the pond. And the project, we ought to be able to get it done this year. But again, because of the cost of doing business, this would authorize the movement of unallocated fund balance dollars of $60,000 to the project. And they'll continue to work through some other fundraising avenues. But let's get this thing done tonight, passed, and they can go to work with their contractor selected. Thank you.
Further comments from counselors? Seeing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Tobin?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Favelis?
Yes.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Chad?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Our next item, also coming from Finance, Organization, and Personnel, is also a resolution, R 2025-05. Committee is recommending the adoption, and it's Resolution R 2025-05, a resolution relating to appropriation for the sewer main lining program.
Counselor Powers for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move for the adoption of Resolution 2025-05.
Second.
And this is a sewer main lining program. We were involved with the DES for some funding. We've received some funding. We also have some forgiveness towards the payment of this funding. And the project's been put together and it's ready to roll. Some of this funding is coming from future years that it's in CIP. So we're kind of moving this all together, fast tracking it, because springtime's coming around, we're ready to go. So this was adopted unanimously by FOP. I'd ask you to do the same.
Thank you. Counselor Powers, any further comment from counselors? Seeing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Tobin?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Favelis?
Yes.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
And this passes unanimously as well.
Again, Finance, Organization, and Personnel dealing with Resolution R 2025-06. Committee is recommending its adoption. Takes us to Resolution R 2025-06, a resolution relating to appropriations for the sewer manhole lining program.
And Counselor Powers for a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move for the adoption of Resolution 2025-06.
Second.
And Counselor Powers for the committee.
Thank you. This is the sewer manhole lining project. These are going to be fun projects this summer. Again, part of the program with DES, and we're looking to move forward from 26 and 27, $349,600, ready to go, unanimously approved by FOP. Please do the same.
And any further comment from counselors? Seeing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Tobin?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Favelis?
Yes.
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. And our last motion of the evening.
This is a memorandum from the Public Works Director relative to Resolution R 2025-07, a resolution relating to the appropriation of funds for a sidewalk paving machine.
And Counselor Powers, once again.
Referral.
Oh, this, I'm sorry. This is a referral to FOP. This is a staff introduced motion. Yes, okay. So we've reached the final motion. I want to.
Can you turn on your microphone, please?
Yeah. No, I'm out. I want the public to be aware, what I'm sure all of the counselors and charter officers recognize. Today is Tom Mullen's last city council meeting as our city attorney. And as was witnessed tonight, we have leaned on him many times in his 17 years of service to the city. Sometimes, as a general standard, attorneys are difficult to understand. But it was said today by the city manager at the Agenda Review Committee meeting that Tom is very assertive. Did anyone observe that? And as he demonstrated, you can do what you want. He's not one-dimensional. And among his finer options, his finer traits is that he's good at presenting us with options, and he lets us decide. And how often have you heard him say, quote, "Yep, you can do that." So 3 city managers, 5 mayors, and any number of councilors later, 300 staff who've relied on him. And this has defined your work over the 17 years. You begin a new chapter in your life that'll give you the ability to determine the priorities that you take on. Don't forget about us. But how you prioritize your time, I think, is what you've said to me is what's important to you in the next chapter. I want to express, and I'm sure I say this on behalf of the entire council, our sincere appreciation for your outstanding service to the city, to the council. We are in great appreciation of your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I appreciate it. Yes, thank you all very much. Late night, not done yet, couple short words, but I have really, really appreciated the opportunity that the city council 17 years ago provided to me by becoming the city attorney. It has been a very interesting ride. And oftentimes an intellectual challenge. But I've really appreciated working with the mayors. I've been working with the city manager, with Patty, former city managers, with all of you, with the city councilors who are not here anymore. And I thank you very much. And I will prioritize my time. I think I have 4 trips planned in the next 7 months. So, but thank you again. Appreciate that.
And thank you, Tom. Thanks for your words. I want to turn to Counselor Greenwald now for a motion to go into non-public session.
Just when you thought it was over. Move to go into a non-public session to discuss land matters under RSA 91A32D, the consideration or negotiation of pending claims or litigation under RSA 91A32E, and the consideration of the release of non-public minutes under RSA 91A32M.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Bosley. We need a roll call.
And Counselor Bosley.
Yes.
Counselor Tobin.
Yes.
Counselor Philios.
Yes.
Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Counselor Haas.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Roberts.
Yes.
Counselor Favelis.
Yes.
Counselor Lee.
Yes.
Counselor Chad.
Yes.
Counselor Powell.
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. We are in non-public session, and I'm going to ask for a 5-minute recess. There are 3 items for us.
I'm gonna have Dan stay